All right, we're cracking open a case file today, straight from the archives of Tahala, a port city that's hiding some deep, dark secrets. What you're about to hear is the official record of a really disturbing maritime event, one that came to be known as the Sandpiper incident.
So this is where it all kicks off. These are the last words of a dying sailor. Super cryptic, right? But they were the very first clue in an investigation that was about to uncover a horror lurking just beneath the sunny surface of this tropical city.
So let's set the scene. We're at the bustling docks of Tahala, a city literally built on massive sea cliffs. The date is November 30th, 2025. You can just imagine the air, thick with salt and humidity, and a tension that's just about to snap.
Now let's get into the first part of this report, the dockside anomaly. Because the weirdness didn't actually start with the ship itself, but with a series of strange events that drew several key people right to this one very specific spot.
You know, the crazy thing is, the first domino fell in a dockside tavern of all places. Patrons are just enjoying their breakfast when suddenly they're attacked by sailors who've been magically transformed, polymorphed into these monstrous sea creatures. After a brutal fight, the attackers turn back into their human forms. Only one is conscious enough to gasp out that chilling warning before he collapses.
And that warning pointed everyone to one place, the Sandpiper. Now, at the center of this whole mystery was this ship, but it wasn't just old, it was rotting at like an impossible speed. What was once a thriving fishing boat now just sat at the end of the docks like a corpse, totally silent and just decaying.
Now all this strangeness around the Sandpiper, it didn't go unnoticed. The ship was like a magnet, drawing three very different people to its gangplank, and each one had their own reasons for being there. They were not a team. Seriously, their meeting was pure random chance.
First on the scene was Orthez Lighthold, a Leonin, a powerful lion-like humanoid, and a paladin whose very presence just commands respect. He'd seen the chaos at the inn firsthand, and his oath drove him to find the source of whatever dark magic caused it.
Showing up almost at the exact same time was Shavamiliamne, though everyone just calls him Bones. He's a wood elf monk, a quiet observer who moves with this, silent grace. But for him, this was personal. The Sandpiper was the very ship that had brought him to Tahala just a few days before. Seeing it like this, it was a deep and really disturbing puzzle he had to solve.
And to make things even more interesting, this wasn't just a two-person party. A tabaxi rogue, a quick, cat-like person known as Three, was already there. He wasn't investigating, though. Nope, he was hiding up in the rigging, planning to collect a debt. He had no idea he was about to become a witness to, well, all of this. And get this, the timeline shows just how fast this all went down. We're talking a 2-minute window where these three completely separate paths all converge on this one ship. The file also has this weird side note about a fourth guy, a Goliath named Jay, who was mysteriously lured away into the fog and just vanished moments before. Another layer to the whole mess.
Okay, so once they're aboard, this, let's call them an impromptu group of investigators, they start searching the derelict ship. And what they found only made the mystery deeper, and it woke up a very violent hidden threat.
The deck was just eerily silent. In the officers' quarters, it was like a life just suddenly interrupted. It was really clear the crew hadn't just packed up and left, they had vanished, leaving everything behind in a total moment of panic.
They found no bodies, which is weird, right? Just empty piles of clothes where men should have been. But then they made a huge discovery, a heavy crate humming with this weird energy and stamped with the unmistakable seal of the Golden Lions.
Now, to really get why this is a big deal, you have to understand who the Golden Lions are. They're the absolute military authority in Tahala. They are the law. So finding their seal here wasn't just suspicious. It basically implied that the state itself was involved in whatever horror was happening on this ship.
This discovery just changed the entire investigation. This wasn't just some cursed fishing boat anymore. This was something the highest powers in the city were directly involved in. And the question hanging in the air was simple and pretty terrifying. Why?
Well, they didn't really have time to ponder that question, because that's when the trap was sprung. Doors slammed shut, and from the shadows and below deck, these vicious fish-like monsters known as Sahuagin just erupted, swarming our investigators in a total frenzy. This ship was not abandoned. It was guarded.
So after a desperate, bloody fight, the investigators managed to take down their ambushers. The Sahuagin lay dead. But clearing the deck of one threat only revealed that the true source of the rot was something else entirely.
The immediate danger was dealt with, but the really fundamental questions were still there. Where was the crew?
And what in the world could make a ship decay with such unnatural speed? I mean, this wasn't weather or neglect, this was an active, aggressive rot.
Then, in the sudden silence after the battle, a new sound started to filter up from the belly of the ship. It was faint at first, but it was steady. A sound that had been totally masked by the chaos of the fight was now making itself known from behind the sealed hatch of the main cargo hold.
And that's when it hit them. The Sahuagin, they weren't the ship's curse. They were just the guards. The real horror, the actual source of the rot, was alive, and it was beating right beneath their feet.
So the investigation was no longer about a missing crew. It was about what was locked in that hold. The archival record ends here, with the true, beating heart of the Sandpiper's rot just waiting, and the only way forward was down.